Happy Wisdom Wednesday, everyone. So this week's book of the week comes from an area of marketing that I absolutely love, which is classic advertising and copywriting. You see, even though we have the internet, all this technology today, human beings have not changed. And the people that used to write ads 50, 60, 100 years ago really paid attention to human psychology. And that's why classic copywriting is really the best place to start. If you want to get really the best strategies and tactics on how to make a message effective and get people to take action. Now, this book was introduced by a really good marketer, and at least in my eyes, his name is Bernard Ablola. Go ahead and check him out. He has great work and a really interesting page. But he introduced this at a summit called the Stacking Growth Summit, where a lot of other marketers, especially in the growth space, get together. Now, the book of the week is called The Wizard of Ads, Turning Words into Magic and Dreamers into Millionaires. And of course, if you look at the book's cover and the way the book's designed and the name, it's one of those books that most marketers today who think they know everything would look at it and say, oh, this looks like a silly book. But it's a fantastic book because each chapter really outlines how do you get a message to be effective, psychologically compelling, and more importantly, get people to take action. Not with any fancy technology or anything, it's purely focusing on the foundation of marketing. And if you don't have a good foundation, I don't care how good you are at running Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads or anything else, you're not gonna have good marketing. So the book is wonderful because it goes through a variety of short stories that are literally 1 or 2 pages long to highlight what it means to write good copy and create good marketing. Things like the top 10 worst ways to write an advertisement, which I'm actually going to walk you through, or top 9. Another interesting chapter that I liked was the 12 most common mistakes in advertising. Again, these are well documented and well studied. And of course, it goes through a history of marketing and advertising to show you how you can be truly a magician when it comes to writing your ads. So let me walk you through the 9 worst possible ways to write an advertisement, which, by the way, I see day in and day out, especially in my industry, which is the healthcare industry. So number 1, concentrate on reaching the right people. So let me tell you the problem with this. When you say that you're going to reach the right people, you're essentially making an assumption that you know who the right people are, right? In the world of healthcare, what do we always focus on? Either focusing on directly going to the doctor or to the administrator of the hospital who can essentially make the buying decision. But what about the other people who can influence that decision, right? They're not considered the right people, which is the staff, sometimes the nursing, the physician's assistants. But guess what? Those people are part of the buying process these days, especially when you go to larger institutions. So when you focus on the right people, you've now made an assumption and a bias in your head that you know who's going to be the most influential person in the process, and you've now tailored the message just for them. And that doesn't always work. All right, number 2 of the worst ways you can make an advertisement. Make sure that it's the most amount of right people. Again, we have, the doctors who we want to reach, then we have to make sure that we hit all the doctors. Okay? There's a mistake in doing this because, again, you're making these assumptions on who the right people are. Number 3, don't worry what the ad says. It's all about delivery, right? Again, this is the thing that's done time and time again. That's a huge mistake, which is focusing on how pretty does the design look and how wonderful does the product look. All these things are important, but what's even more important is what's the message that's going to be taken from that ad and understood by the audience. You don't have time to assume that the audience already knows about the product, the problem, and everything. Your ad has to be good enough that it compels and conveys all of these things at once. Number 4, fill it with familiar phrases from other ads. Why do we do this? The medical device industry has terrible advertising because they see one, advertiser or one competitor using something like, let's say, accuracy or speed, and they immediately says, you know what? Instead of differentiating ourselves, I think we should compete directly head-to-head on features, right? And now you just have garbage. And of course, at the end of the day, the user or the customer doesn't even know the difference. They can't even tell the difference between one product or the other or another. A great example of this is how our industry has advertised and at least marketed artificial intelligence. It's been going on for a few years now, but if you talk to every single physician, most of them will say, I don't really know how it's going to make an impact or what exactly it's going to do. All right, number 5, only show it to the people who like it, right? This is very specific, not only to advertising, but let's just say online marketing, right? We run certain campaigns and we say, you know what? In this one period of time, the people who actually engage with this ad, let's just show them a new ad and go, make them go down a funnel, right? Without the assumption that, there are other people who may have not seen the ads. Perhaps the messaging was not on point. And now this massive amount of customers, right, that you could have marketed to, told the story to, helped in solving a problem that you've assumed don't like your ad, right? Now they're up for grabs for your competitor. All right, number 6. After a while, everyone has seen it, so you should change it. Again, a really stupid thing. Sometimes companies can get very impatient, and after, say, 6 months of a campaign, they just say, oh, everybody's already seen this campaign, so let's change it, let's reinvent the wheel and do something else. Rather than really focusing on a campaign and saying, how do we slightly change it to improve it? What about the delivery? What about the channels? Can we improve any of these things? Number 7, be intrusive, right? I can't tell you how many times I get emails from different companies saying, hey, we have an email list that we could sell you and it's verified and we have all these. Don't buy email lists, because what are you doing? You're pretty much showing up unannounced, uninvited to somebody's inbox saying, hey, do business with us, watch our webcast or something. And the funny thing is that every single marketer that I talk to has the same reaction to this kind of email marketing, which is, how did this person get my emails? Like, what is this garbage that's ending up in my inbox? But yet they do the same thing when it comes to their customers, right? Don't be intrusive. Don't interrupt people's day. This is where Seth Godin's whole philosophy about permission marketing is most important. The one thing that I do at my current company at Petro is that we don't have the world's biggest email list, right? It's being built up, but I'd rather have an email list of 1,000 or 2,000 qualified people, physicians, investors, administrators, who actually signed up, who said, yes, you have permission to show up in my inbox and interrupt my day because I want to hear from you, versus paying, who knows, $1,000 or $2,000 and getting an email list of 50,000 people, all of whom do not care and are not happy when you show up uninvited. All right, number 8, expect the public to have an understanding of your product. A lot of times people have this random assumption that if we put this one message in front of the customer, they're going to know what we're talking about. And you can't make that assumption. You have to make the assumption that every single time someone's going to see your ad, you have to tell somehow a whole story, or at least a somewhat complete one, so they understand what the problem is. Not your product, but the problem. You need to highlight it. The whole idea is you're not trying to create desire. You're trying to uncover already existing emotions and channel them towards your product. And that starts by amplifying the problem, which is what the customer cares about. They don't care about your product, they care about the problem. And the last step, number 9, of how to create the worst advertisement, you should impress people. People care all about your taste, right? They don't care about their problem. Again, nobody cares how unique and creative your ad copy is or your commercial. What people care about is themselves. Talk to them. Talk about their problems. Talk about things that they want to hear about. No one cares about your product or how great it is. Sure, it's okay to do product marketing from time to time, but that cannot be the tip of the spear when it comes to your marketing strategy. So there are your 9 steps to the worst advertising you can possibly do. Again, Wizard of Ads, it's a great book. Go out and get it. Every marketer will love it because, again, short chapters, 1-2 pages, and you're done. So that's your book of the week. Happy Wisdom Wednesday, and I'll see you as always next Wednesday.